This is Mary, and I'm back again to share some more with you on being just this side of 60, whether it's the front side of 60 or the back side of 60. It doesn't really matter. Any time is a good time to start taking care of yourself and learning new things. Empowering women is really what I like to focus on, and helping you be the very best version of yourself, as I am continually working on becoming an even better version of myself and be my very best self, so that I have that for me and to share with the rest of the world. One of the things that I had to learn at I'm going to say relatively older age, I was 55 years old when I was in the midst of unraveling a 30 plus year marriage and learning some new things that were going to be helpful for me in continuing on into the future and having a much more fulfilling and a better experience. And one of those things was setting boundaries. I didn't realize when I was younger that you even had to set boundaries, or there was such things as boundaries. I don't think that in the late 70s, early 80s, we were even talking about boundaries. I just assumed that if someone loved you, they would respect your boundaries and they wouldn't do things that either felt uncomfortable or hurt you, just because that's what people do that love each other. Well, I was wrong. I, in the last 5 years, have learned so much about myself and on my journey of exploration of really finding out who I am, what I believe, why I believe the things that I believe, because as children, we accept so many things for granted. We accept them from our parents' parents, from our teachers, from our community, all of these different things. And we don't even know if this is something that we want or that serves us. So as an adult, you have an opportunity to look at those things and decide which of those things serve you and you want to keep, and which just don't serve you anymore, or maybe never did. One of those things for me was boundaries. I grew up in a household that was boundaryless. I didn't realize that. I very much was a people pleaser. I had been trained to behave in a certain way to get people to like you and want you to be around. One of the things my mom taught me when I was a young girl is when you go to someone's house, make sure that you help and you do a lot of extra things because you want to be well liked and you want to be invited back. Well, I think I learned that well, and I also took that to an extreme and became a people pleaser, which served me sometimes, but really as a whole didn't serve me. And we'll talk about people pleasing another time, or we'll probably talk about people pleasing a lot, to be honest, because that is a pretty common thing in women, I'd say around my age, and even women still today coming up. But I think that women are becoming more empowered and learning to set good boundaries at much younger ages. So for me, some of that not being able to set boundaries was not being able to say no. Even though I may have wanted to say no, I felt that either I wouldn't be liked, I wouldn't be loved, I wouldn't get invited back, I wouldn't be able to be part of a community unless I did all of these things that sometimes I just frankly really didn't want to do. And I would sometimes become resentful about doing those things, even though I was the one that said yes. So in my journey of self-exploration and learning about boundaries and how to set boundaries, I started reading books. I read several books. I like to listen to audiobooks because I like to either walk or be working in the garden or doing something, menial that doesn't take a lot of time, attention away from what you're focusing on listening to. I'm an auditory person, so listening to things is really valuable to me, and I absorb things well that way. And then when you do it in an audio book, you also get to re-listen to things if maybe you miss it or you get distracted or something, but that seems to work really well for me. One of the things that I learned is that I was in charge of setting my boundaries, but I was also in charge of holding my boundaries. I did not realize that. Like I said, I thought if people liked you or loved you, they just automatically wouldn't do things that either hurt you or didn't serve you or weren't good for you. And I simply found out that I was the one that was at fault for not actually knowing what boundaries were, not understanding what healthy boundaries were, not knowing how to set my boundaries, and also not knowing how to hold my boundaries. So those are all things that I've been working on for the last 5 years or so, and I know I'm going to continue working on into the future as I continue to evolve as a human being and hopefully growing and being able to share my journey with you, partially so you know that you're not alone, because we are all going through this thing called life together, and the more we can share with each other, I think the better off each of us will be, and we're all going to learn things from each other. So I learned that I had to set those boundaries and then I had to hold them. Well, it's pretty difficult to do that with people who've known you for their whole lives or your whole life or your entire adult life, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's partners, spouses, whatever it is sometimes hard for them to accept that you are now going to set boundaries and you are going to hold them. So basically setting a boundary, what that looks like for me is saying, this is what I'm willing to do, and this is my expectation from you in this relationship that we're having, and this is what I'm going to do if that boundary is not met. So if, say for instance, I can give you an example of a friend that I had that I set a boundary for, and she was asking me to do something for her. And I said to her, I am not able to do that for you at that time. And if that doesn't work out for you, then I'm just not going to be able to do that. And she got very angry with me and started, kind of berating me and telling me, well, you should do this because I did this for you, and you should do that. And I finally just had to say, no, this is what I'm willing to do. I can do that thing that you would like me to do or take you to that appointment if you can make it on a day that works for me, but I am not going to call in sick to be able to do that thing for you. I appreciate what you've done for me in the past, but that really doesn't work for me on that day. So if you can rearrange it to work on my day, then that's great. And if not, then I'm sorry, I won't be able to help you. It did not go over well. And I have found that over time, there have been some friendships and partnerships and even a marriage that I had to let go because they really weren't good with me being able to set boundaries. And so I let those things go. At first I had that twinge when setting that boundary for my friend, and I was afraid that she would be mad at me or not like me, and all those old patterns came back in, but I held my boundary and I ended up actually feeling really good about it. That friendship has since ceased. We are no longer friends, but not because I set a boundary, that boundary in particular, but because I decided who I wanted to be in the relationship, and it didn't really work for her. And that's okay with me. And to be quite honest, I felt really good about setting that boundary and then actually holding that boundary myself. So remember this, it's our job to set our boundaries. It's our job to hold our boundaries. and feel confident in doing that. And a good way to start that is with people that are easy to set boundaries with. Don't go straight into your most difficult boundary pushing people and say, okay, I'm going to set this boundary for you, and not expect them to give you some pushback. They are going to give you some pushback. So if you can start with somebody like, my lifelong friend who is a great person for me as far as feedback, and I told her, okay, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to start setting some boundaries now. And so this is what I'm going to do. And she was very gentle with me. She's not a boundary pusher anyway. So I just had to learn to be able to say no and be okay with that, and know that people are going to still like me. People are still going to love me, even if I do set boundaries for them. So this has just been a little part of my journey. And I hope that if you are in the process of becoming more of yourself, more of who you were meant to be, that if setting boundaries is something that you've never done before, realize it's never too late to start. You can start setting boundaries today and start with baby steps and keep working from there. And you can do this. I have some great resources that I'd like to share with you. I have some books that I was able to listen to on audiobook. And one of them is called Healing the Shame That Binds Us. That is by John Bradshaw, and that was an amazing book. I really enjoyed it. Take what you want out of these books and leave the rest. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Or if it's not for you right now, that's okay too. It might be better for you later. But they are great resources that I found, and I will link them in the show notes below. Another one is called Boundaries by John Townsend, and just called Boundaries, and it's a fabulous book in helping you learn to set boundaries. The third one is Where to Draw the Line, and that's by Katherine. So those are all great resources. You can either buy the books on Amazon, or you can get the audiobooks through Audible. I know they're all available there because I've been able to get those, and I've actually bought some of these books for friends of mine to just help them in their journey of starting this, doing more of your becoming of who you actually are. So if you're just on this side of 60 or you're already on that side of 60, it really doesn't matter when you want to get started. It just matters that you do get started. I hope to see you again. I have lots more to share with you. Have a great day.